Alright, so I know I'm late to the party on this. Everyone has already made their videos and content, but I can't miss out on this one myself. And I had the same reaction as everyone else when it all went down. What just happened? Like, Dallas just traded one of the best players of this generation without any hesitation. Like, what? Like, how does that happen? Apparently, the Dallas Mavericks GM, Nico Harrison, wanted nothing to do with Luka Doncic in their future plans for their franchise. They did not view Luka as a franchise piece moving forward. Luka was eligible for a supermax contract, but that's obviously now gone after the trade, and now we know that they clearly weren't comfortable paying Luka that type of money. The craziest part was that Luka was not informed of this happening behind the scenes, nor did he ever express any kind of disinterest in continuing to work for the Dallas Mavericks. Shams described the deal happening in the quote-unquote shadows, and Harrison dangled the idea to Pelinka through their close relationship. And all of this stems from two main issues that the front office had with Luka, and it's pretty bizarre. First things first, Harrison stated that he wants to put his team in a quote-unquote win-now situation, believes that defense wins chips, and that Dallas now has a better chance to contend after moving off of Luka Doncic. This doesn't make any sense at all. Luka Doncic at his very best, in my opinion, is literally like the top 2 best player in the world. Yeah, I said it, top 2. Not even a year ago, he took the Mavericks to the NBA Finals as a 25-year-old guard. He took this franchise to the highest stage that you could possibly go to in the NBA. The only thing he couldn't do was win it all, but that's not on him. Sure, he could have displayed better defensive effort and execution, but he did what he was supposed to do. And quite frankly, Dallas losing to Boston was more of a team issue rather than an individual player's issue. With that being said, you could argue that if Kyrie had just given more superstar level production in that series, Dallas would have made the series so interesting that it could have potentially gone a different direction. But if that alone isn't enough to prove to you that he's a win now player, how about the series before that? Luka Doncic faced off against the number 1 defense, the Minnesota Timberwolves, which gave hell to the defending champions at the time. He completely eviscerated that defense. The same defense that gave the best team in the Western Conference all season in a chokehold, he made that defense seem absolutely useless. It didn't matter the coverages, the matchups, the physicality, he was going to have his way whether he scored or passed the ball. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal couldn't figure out that defense. Nikola Jokic couldn't figure out that defense. Jamal Murray couldn't do it. And guess what? Minnesota had zero answer for him in that series. They could not slow him down one bit. Jaden McDaniels, who was hounding KD in Denver's backcourt, Luka was giving him fits. So all this talk about how Luka doesn't fit your timeline in a quote-unquote win-now situation is crazy. I don't get it at all. Like, I get the defensive concerns, but there's more to that than you think. First of all, I didn't think Luka was as bad of a defender as people were making him out to be. Yes, he was bad in the finals, but not in the previous 3 series. Second of all, this is an issue that is manageable. No, Luka does not have any obligations of being a two-way talent. That's not what he's being asked to do. He just has to do his job, and that's something that he can certainly do through time. Look at Steph Curry. Is he a great defender? No, but can he do his job good enough to the point where better defensive players anchoring around him can help him and the team? Yes, and the same can happen for Luka. Staying on the topic of manageable issues, the second issue that Dallas had with Luka was his conditioning. Apparently, Luka had a ton of weight issues when reporting to camp this season, where he ballooned to 270 pounds and was given an 11-day absence in November through listing him injured to shed off a few pounds. Now, this one I can understand to a degree. GMs and front offices care a lot about a player's lifestyle and vices. I believe Mark Cuban once said on Pat Bev's podcast that he would trade players because of their poor decision making off the court that affects their profession. And as a professional athlete, being in shape should be a non-negotiable and a prerequisite. More and more players are getting injured because of poor conditioning, and understandably so. That is a real concern as availability needs to be prioritized. But this is an issue that you can deal with. Now, is it easy? No. Getting in shape and living a disciplined lifestyle requires focus from the mind, and that can take some time. But again, you can work with that, and you should be willing to because of Luka's capability as a basketball player. Like I said again, him at his best, and there's only about another player in the league that is better than him. It is much easier to work with someone who has all the skills in the world but lacks conditioning rather than vice versa, where someone has great conditioning but they have skill deficiencies. For an example, if someone is a bad shooter, a bad passer, or a bad finisher, future, it can take them a very long time to be reliable in that aspect. But if somebody has bad conditioning with the best skills in the world, it is an issue, but it's an issue you'd rather have. Zion Williamson from the New Orleans Pelicans. His conditioning is poor, but has New Orleans given up on him? No. Why? Because they still believe in his potential because of his skills as a basketball player. And going back to Luka, he's already one of the best without being in shape. Imagine if you stay patient and work with him on this. Now imagine where things can go. Plus, he's only 25 years old. He's a grown man, but he's still young. The point is, it was never an urgent problem, not enough for Dallas to punt on him all of a sudden. That's for sure. Now, obviously, if you're the Lakers, if Dallas is offering you Luka Doncic, you can't say no on paper. You have an opportunity to bring a top 3 player alongside LeBron James, where he's still a top 15 player despite being 40 years old. You have to do that. But in exchange for a guy like AD, and that's where it hurts, because AD worked very well alongside LeBron. He complemented Bron on both ends of the court and was one of the reasons why the Lakers were relevant and competitive against the best teams in the world. He provided high level production as a screen and roll, post up, and rim protecting big in the front court department that was extremely valuable to the Lakers. Without him, the Lakers would have been done a long time ago. So now with him gone, the Lakers have no viable big. Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood are not good enough to be a starting big on a championship team. They have nobody that can even replicate a quarter of what AD has provided, let alone the entire package. So this is where things become tricky, because now you're arguably the best shot creation team in the league, but you're heavily deficient in the front court talent. If the Lakers had another big that was half as good as AD, I would say yes, go all in and make the move for Luka. Now, I'm not saying that this move was a mistake by any means, but I'm wondering that if the Lakers don't get another viable big, could this move be a mistake? Especially when you look at the landscape of the Western Conference. Some of these teams that have some bruising bigs, AD was there to fill that void. And if you imagine a scenario where they run into Denver again, just a thought. AD shared his opinions on LA's roster construction with Shams on ESPN and how they needed a big to contend, and according to Brett Siegel, that created a rift between AD and the Lakers management. And if that's the case, then that's lame. This has been a topic of conversation for years with the Lakers, and even after acquiring one of the best players in the league, that is still a need for the team. AD has expressed this many times in the past, where he feels comfortable playing the 4 alongside another good big man, where he doesn't have to uphold the entire defensive responsibility. Instead of AD constantly being the screen defender, he believes he can anchor the defense better as a low man, and that is a perfectly reasonable request. AD is good enough to demand pieces that can help him, Bron, and the Lakers contend. You can't get offended by something as little as this. Overall, crazy trade, bruh. Ain't nobody safe in this league, man.